everybody, welcome to your inspiring conversation. Let's talk about Nigeria's next president. My name is Gilad Shoaib, and together with me on this inspiring talk show that I'll be talking about the next face of who would emerge as Nigeria's president is Mr. Stanley, Mr. Dio, and Bob to my right. And today we'll be analyzing various issues and what we should expect from the next president as we move towards the elections. As we understand, like Nigerians are gearing up towards the 2023 elections, and there's a high rate of voters increase. Voters registration is closing soon, and then we can see that we have an extra. According to INEC facts, there's about 10.4 million people who have registered to participate in the elections. I think this is beautiful, and I think it's a time for Nigerians to all come out and make a decision about their future. And today in the conversation, we'll be talking about the state of insecurity. We're in the capital city of Abuja, and we're all, would I say scared, sir?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So I'll say we're all sitting under under some level of fear. And today we'll be talking about insecurity and what the next Nigerian president must come to fix. So I'll give the table next to Mr. Dare.
Well, viewers, there's no long story. There's really no long story about this. Everybody is aware of the challenge that we have concerning security in this nation. We have seen several instances of how people are being kidnapped, people are being killed, and so on and so forth. In fact, right here on the borders of the Federal Capital Territory, we had somewhere in Zuma, around the Zuma Rock yesterday, we had an instance where soldiers were attacked. Some others were attacked again today as well. And so much is going on that is negative. Now, so it's the issue we would like to bring to the table is what exactly do we expect of the next Nigeria's president in the area of insecurity? And if you ask me, I would expect that the next president must be someone who is large-hearted enough to want to work with the best brains available so that there's no nepotism and the best capacity is drawn together in order that we can agencies and force against the challenge of insecurity. Let me add a little bit to that. What we have right now is that you have about 15, 17 security agencies, and all of them are headed by Northerners. That alone is a problem, because what it means is that there's a whole lot of distrust amongst the players. And what it means is that you can have people, even within the system, who are working against those persons out of the feeling that they are not being carried along. Protest. Exactly, a subtle protest. So these are the things that the next president must look out and say, look, who is the best in this place? Who is the best in the fire service? Who is the best in the NSCDC? Who is the best in the police? And so on and so forth. So that we get the best brains, the best hands together, so that we can really give a fight to these people.
Yeah, so I don't know if Mr. Stanley would like to add into this.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, Kelado. When we look at insecurity, it's a huge issue for us here in Nigeria. Personally, I believe the top two issues we have in this country is insecurity, number one, our economy, number two. Right? And then the reason I brought this slant to it is because we need to understand what's the cause of this insecurity. Right. When these things, of course, we've always had instances of headsmen attacking communities, even when Goodluck Jonathan was president of Nigeria. And at that point, it was dismissed as, or it wasn't just dismissed, it was really, those were headers, farmers' crisis at the time. So, but in 2015, when the incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari came into power, he started stressing this out in the chat about the depleting source water in the Chad Basin. Yeah. And with so with this issue in the Chad Basin, this drought in the Chad Basin, the headers had to move their cattle down south. But then we are now at a point where an entire ecosystem, business ecosystem, has been created out of insecurity. On one side, we have kidnap for ransom as an economic model. On the other side, we just have communities that just go against each other, out of distrust for each other. But then when we look at under all of this thing, an underlying principle, and BBC did something, the BBC Private Eye Africa, they did something. And watching the coverage, the one they did of Zamfara State, I was listening to one of the bandits that they interviewed, and he said that, that this thing is happening because their people, they don't give their people's job in government. And then they have no other way of fending for themselves. So they have to take up this life of crime, this life of, terror and all. But then, when we now look at that, we now see how economy is an issue. But then the question I was asking myself when I was watching this was, do people really know that government can't, and especially state government, can't afford to just engage people? And the mere fact that government can engage people, that in itself leaves you with a huge population of young people, people of labor age, who have absolutely nothing to do. And then in most of these communities in the north, now insecurity is across the country. I'm going to talk about the issues we have in the southeast. But in the north, we have states where unemployment is as high as 80%. As high as 80%. So people don't have jobs. And then when young people don't have jobs, and then they don't have any feel, they don't feel the impact of government in any way. They don't trust government. So what you see from those sort of systems, in a system like that, is that these people have to go out and fend for themselves. Now, you have the headers. Of course, their cattle have to eat. They are cattle, and they're already bitter. Then, they're traveling. Then they come to someone's farm. And the cattle gets into the farm and just destroys the crops in the farm. The mindset of the person whose crop this cattle is destroying isn't just neutral. This person have already heard stories about Fulani headsmen. He has heard stories about them. He's already biased against them. His mind is set in a certain way against them. The headsman himself has heard about how they are hostile farmers, or their people, their houses. The private eye documentary shows us that the banditry issue in the Zamfara is actually a case of conflict or war between Fulanis and Hausas. So the cattle goes in there, destroys people's crop, and then they fight back. It is not just that the cattle destroy their crop, it is because they've been hearing these things about this particular people of this ethnicity doing this thing. Oh, they're trying to grab my land. Oh, they just get up in arms and they try to defend themselves. Now, notice, it is people trying to defend themselves. Where is government in all of this? If the government could be relied on, if this administration could, and I'm not just trying to hit at this administration, the reason I'm not pointing at this administration is these conflicts have happened before. Before this administration,
some quarters even argue that it's been up for more than 1,400 years.
It's been up for that long.
Has continued to go. So I may have to give Bob a second to speak about this.
First of all, we're speaking on insecurity. I will start my conversation by saying about 7 years ago, 15 million Nigerians put their trust in a party and an individual that was supposed to ensure their standards of living gets better. Today, standard of living is evidently poor. Petrol price has increased by over 110%. The price of cooking gas has increased by over 100% as well. Price of food inflation is about 60%, and every other thing is not going as planned. So I think we have gotten to the point where Nigerians trusted an administration, trusted an individual, and it's seemingly like it failed. It's feeling like the trust has been abused, and then every average Nigerian is agitated. So insecurity has become an issue. Insecurity has become an issue. Why? Because Nigerians are disgruntled both at every level. So at the level where you spoke about the cattle rearers and the farmers, but I even think at this point that the insecurity in Nigeria has gone way above that level, where we're even seeing silo groups of bandits. Like when the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, me and Gilado drove around at about 1 a.m. on day before yesterday, and we saw that Abuja was almost like a ghost town.
Which is very unusual.
Let's say chilling spots were quiet, were empty, and now what does that result to? Those businesses, those places lose businesses. They can't pay their staff. Those staff lose jobs. Those are families that cannot fend for themselves. People can't pay school fees. So for me it is a circle where a failed system has birthed a lot of spiraling issues, namely insecurity, amongst other things. Insecurity is hitting very hard, and for Nigeria, Abuja is the Federal Capital Territory, and even for these bandits, as we say, had the guts to threaten the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. That is unacceptable. That is something that should not happen. But why is it happening? Because there's a total failure in the system. They've gotten away with a lot of things. The Nigerian Defense Academy was attacked and nothing happened. Over time, they've gotten away with it and they've gotten away with it. And now it has built confidence in these miscreants, as I would call them. And they keep striking and keep striking. And if this administration does not sit up and take decisive actions, we will lose our country.
I think to add to what you said, I think it's just quite unfortunate that even after we see the Owo attack, that about 40-something people were killed, the same society was attacked again. That's just to tell you that Nigeria is not less than a month later. I think no consequences. It's just to show that clearly we're in a state where we don't have security are not proactive. They are not even active. They are reactive. So after something, everybody runs and comes. So I think it's a time when Nigerians have to put our heads together and make sure that we find a lasting solutions to this, because as much as we're blaming the government, the citizens also have a right, because because these bandits and criminals don't act without informants. People who live around us share certain information about our movements to these people. So if people around us, if we don't act as our keepers, if we don't act as our next door neighbor, or we don't try to manage ourselves and report issues that are happening to the relevant authorities, or try to find a way to create maybe a holistic approach to fighting this insecurity, then we might have.
I even want to interject you there. You said, I understand the citizens have a role to play.
Yeah.
Very true, good and fine. But the truth is, what are the consequences the government has put in place? We've seen reports where Nigeria, I can remember the report of 6 Nigerians indicted in a Boko Haram terrorism funding case in Dubai. Where did that case land today? Now, we even the security agencies, let's talk about the security agencies. Egypt has about 80 million people and they have 3 million policemen to guard it. Nigeria, 200 million people, have about 300,000 policemen to guard it. How is that supposed to happen? Let's do the maths. Divide 211 million people by 300,000 policemen. How is that supposed to happen? So I feel like the bulk of the work still falls down to the leadership of this country. If the leadership sets the tone, for how every other thing should go.
To be honest, I think the fact that there's a high level of mistrust between citizens and the security agencies is what is fostering a lot of these things. Like people don't believe in the structures anymore. So for that fact, everybody's just trying to, do you understand, securing themselves. People are becoming, even the NSA said it yesterday, that people are tired of insecurity and they're resorting to self-help.
Do you understand? See, we have a situation, just to add to what you said before, we have a situation where even the commander-in-chief himself says a lot of times he's not aware of what's happening. And there was, some credence was lent to it during the week when El Rufai said he was the one that told Buhari that there was a threat to kill him, to
kidnap him,
abduct him alongside with El Rufai. That's bad enough.
It's terrible.
And so when you also read the papers and you find out that there are reports that intel reports don't get to the commander-in-chief. They get to the NSA and it stops there and it doesn't get to where action can be taken. Then you begin to think, because that's where I want to go now, you begin to think that there's some complicity, there's some collusion going on. Because totally why would you not allow the person who can give the order to get the information he requires to make such decisions?
A lot of times when we talk about the insecurity issue, we just deal with the actions, the things that happened, the events. But it's deep. It's very deep. Number one, Dayo has raised this question about how intel doesn't get to the president, meaning the president isn't making the decisions as far as fighting and dealing with these issues are. He's not making those decisions. That's one. But number two, think about it like this. At a point, in fact, until date, Sheikh Gumi has been negotiating, he's been negotiating. I use that word carefully.
Let's say
interfacing. That's the more correct term. He has been interfacing between the bandits and government. And Sheikh Gumi, when he speaks, the things he keeps referring to, the excuses that he makes, and I use excuses respectfully, is that these people don't have healthcare, they don't have schools,
they don't have this. So it's referring to social amenities, it's referring to social intervention, social goods. That's what he is referring to. Now, let me just take our mind back a little to 2003 to 2007, when the militants in the Niger Delta were agitating. And the argument then was, oh, you can't steal our oil. You're stealing our oil, and then our lands are destroyed. And yes, the lands in the Niger Delta was destroyed. It's pretty much destroyed. It's a mess. You can't farm, you can't fish, you know. But they were making those agitations. Then the amnesty due came, and then yes, those guys were sorted out. But with the bandits, it's an entirely different thing. It's an
how is it entirely different?
No, we'll explain. As at the time the militants, although that wasn't the point of this, but as at the time the militants were making this agitation, the Niger Delta, Nigeria's budget was funded 98% or 99% by crude, and the crude was good because. So these guys were really, the region had something it was bringing to the table. It has not deteriorated to the point. And when I use deterioration, because if Fulani children can't have access to education, it's tragic. If they can't have access to healthcare, it is tragic. Government ought to provide those goods.
That's the point I wanted to just
Government ought to provide those goods. But when government can't provide those goods, let's not forget that the people in the Ilajes still don't have schools. The people from the Jaws don't have schools and hospitals. So it is not just that, oh, this guy is
so how to say something.
So the point, sorry sir. So the point here, the point I'm trying to drive home here is beyond the events that happen. And then yes, you have a president who was just told by the governor of another state that, oh, this guy's made and they threatened to kidnap you and me. He has spokespeople, he has people around him, they didn't tell him. Yeah. What that simply tells us is that as far as this insecurity issue is concerned, the president of this country, as it is, the structure that we have in place can't deal with the issues. We have gone from failing in intelligence. Those bandits can ambush those people in the middle of the day. It is first and foremost. Yes, I don't know what sort of, but of course there's intelligence there. Ransom is being paid. Somebody was saying something yesterday and saying that only on the event, only on the people that were kidnapped from the Kaduna train event, over $1 billion has been raised.
It's part of our GDP now.
They intend to raise 4.3 billion. Don't forget.
Yeah, calls have been made.
Yes.
Calls have been paid. Ransoms have been paid. Surely it's a failure of intelligence. We've moved past intelligence. We're not saying, look across now, we're not saying to the villages. In Abuja, every street and estate is guarded by vigilantes, VGN, not by the police. Go. Even within town, there are estates that is guarded by vigilantes in locally made rifles. In this Abuja. So we've even gone past failing in intelligence. Now in dealing with, if there is an issue, how do you address it? We are not even capable. Abuja has 3 main entry points. 3. And you're still telling us that because bandits threatened to attack, or you received intelligence that bandits would attack, you shut down schools. What the government is saying when they shut down schools was they were saying that we can't protect you.
That's
people.
correct.
So this insecurity is this goes to my point where I said insecurity is causing a ripple effect on various issues in our country, and I will say again, if we do not tackle it carefully, we are losing our country.
I'm also looking at us having the conversation about the terror media, where the media is reporting issues of. This is the next topic actually I was looking forward to having this conversation. Okay. Like for instance, now we're seeing the media propagating and speaking about banditry, speaking about what they have gone through. A lot of spectators have come out to say, oh, that's not right. This is a propaganda agenda. They are putting fears in the lives of Nigerians. They are putting fear in the security sector.
But it's no longer propaganda.
But do you think do you think that conversation? Do you think the media should keep spotlighting issues of terrorism?
And I will answer this question, right? The media is not spotlighting the issues of terrorism. Yes. They are not.
Terror media, yeah.
They are not. You call them terror. They are not terror media. That's just another. Let me explain what I'm saying here. If the government and the security agencies were transparent enough to tell people as it is. One, we have military systems, we have security apparatus, right? Now, we have in the villages, in that same documentary, we have reports of vigilantes, locally assembled hunters, who chase these bandits, who defeat them.
Yeah.
In that video, the hunters were the ones leading the soldiers. They were the ones. So if these people were able to fight these bandits, are able to defeat them, are able to protect their lands in the southeast, there's this group called Ebobegidike, or what, I don't know. Ebobeagu. Now those people put themselves together to protect themselves. Do you know why? Because they couldn't trust the government.
This is the reason why.
If you even refer back to that BBC documentary, you see when the terrorists said the government paid 60 million. And this is government has
Negotiated and paid
60 million. That they billed them 300 million and they paid 60 million. So it has come to the stage where the government does not have monopoly of violence. And in a state where what makes a government, the government should have, why you are a government, because you have monopoly of power. You are the government. So we have gotten to the stage where our government doesn't have the monopoly of power.
Bob, it would have been understandable the point you just made, if that was the only area where government had failed. But a situation where on several other fronts in the same matter, government has let the people down. There's nobody who is going to be able to really accommodate that kind of point of view. For example, now you find a situation where the moment they say, we don't want this, they now dictate the kind of life we can live. Schools are shut down, for example. What government does that? I mean, you should at least show that you've got what you just talked about. Government should have superiority of violence. When it comes to violence, let's do it. We should tell whoever is the criminal that look, you can't outwit us. If we don't do that, what it does is that it emboldens several other cells. People who had been thinking about it and dropping the idea begin to get emboldened and say, if these guys can do it, we can do it also. And so you increase
so eventually
the reservoir of criminals.
Everywhere keeps shutting down.
It keeps shutting down. Already the FCT, for example, some weeks back said, parks and gardens must close at 7. Why? Nobody thought of the girls who work in those places. Nobody thought of the businesses themselves. The fish, the fact that
all those
some persons get relaxed after a very hard day's work. Nobody thought about that. They're just thinking in one direction that you don't even understand. Now, that's the economy being damaged. And it all boils down, if you ask them, it's insecurity. You can't continue to do that. You can't continue to do that. Then you get a situation where government itself does not have information. I mean, when the president says he does not have information, he's not aware, I cannot accommodate.
The president is the leader of the government.
Then look at it.
So if he says he doesn't know, the government
These same criminals walk into Abuja, walk in leisurely, enjoy their ride on their bikes, come to a prison and release their people, and they walk away free. And you want us to accommodate that? If they can do that, why can't we do that with our own hostages?
My ideal Nigerian president is somebody that understands leadership as a concept. Because to be president of the most populous black country on earth, you must know that leadership is a strong quality you must imbibe. Secondly, leadership is influence. Even from campaigns, we can see how people are able to influence other people. If at your level as a candidate, you cannot influence your followers, you cannot influence people that look up to you, there's nothing you're looking for as a president. We should look at track record as well. What have you done? What are your competencies? Exactly. So for me, the three things are: I'm a leader that understands leadership as a concept, someone that can influence people positively, because there's positive and negative influence. And thirdly, antecedents. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I would like to end this way by saying that Nigeria needs a president who has vision. This room to be like this. I like this. I want to have an anteroom. I want to have and all that. It should be a duplex. It's first of all built in your consciousness. Now, if you have a president who has a vision of, I want to take education from this figure to this figure, and then you put figures to it. If you have a president who has a vision of Nigeria must be clean, FCT must be clean, whatever it takes, it must be clean. If you have a vision of what will it actually cost to deal with insecurity, to deal with insurgency, give me the cost. Let's do that for 1 year. Nigerians must be able to decode when somebody is lying.
Yeah, my point is number one.
we need to recognize the fact that the political class has failed us. They are failing us and they are destroying our country. The people have to be involved in this whole political conversation and its control. The people have to take it back. The political class has failed. Number two, the office of the president is not a retirement home. It is not what we reward people with. It is one of the most tedious jobs on planet Earth. Anybody who goes there has to work. They have to work. It is not what we reward people with. It is not a retirement home. Number three, as far as the personality of the person is concerned, we want somebody who has experience running business with their own money. We want somebody who has experience doing business, who has experience, who has employed people as a private citizen who has run a meaningful business. We want that kind of person. We don't want political acts. We don't want people who grew up. No, let us take it and give it to people who've done stuff with their life. Not people who have lived off public office patronage. No, we want people who've done stuff with their life, people we can see. Number four, and it ties back to number two about Nigeria not being a retirement home. It's not the job of Nigeria presidency in Nigeria. It's not for, we can't deceive ourselves. It doesn't matter how we say it. An old man can do that job. An old man, let's just be honest. Politics is such that what you buy, you get. If you make a decision based on religious or ethnic sentiments, you will suffer the consequences. But Nigerians must take back their country. And as we get into the election season, let's be mindful of people who will try to tear us apart. People who will try to bring politics, who will try to bring ethnicity into our political conversation and try to tear us apart. Let us be mindful of people who try to use religion to tear us apart. Let's be mindful of this, and I wish us good speeding.
All right, so thank you so much, Stanley. Thank you so much, Dayo. Thank you so much, Bob. This is your inspiring youth, inspiring conversation on Nigeria's next president. We'll continue to give you guys updates on what's going on in the state of the country, and we'll continue to sensitize us on what we should expect from the next Nigeria's president.